Hello and welcome to Corepunk World. Today we're going to analyze the warrior passive tree. But before that, let's say some basic things. There are going to be 8 talent trees and you can choose 3 of them. The first will be on level 5, then on level 10, then on level 15. Okay, it doesn't matter what class are you, if you're a healer or a warrior or an assassin, you can choose whatever you want, and that brings a lot of versatility to the builds. Each talent tree has a basic buff. Okay, for the warrior it's 5% damage, and then you have 5 tiers, and in each tier you choose 1 out of 3 passives. Okay, let's see the first tier of the warrior. As we can see, all 3 choices in the first tier gives you 5% damage. The difference is how do you get this 5%, and that's what we're gonna look right now. Stacking strength. The character deals 1% more damage for each positive effect lasting more than a minute that is active on them, up to a maximum of 5%. The keyword here is positive effects lasting more than 1 minute. How do you get them? What are they? Well, from what we know so far is from consumables, and there's some buffs out in the wilderness that you can take and last longer. Now you need 5 of them to get the full potential, right? So I haven't seen a way to get 5 of them so far. Maybe there's something we don't know, so this is kind of a question mark, right? Because if you can get 5 positive effects easy, this will be super broken and the best by far. But from what we have seen so far, it's not. So we'll just put it somewhere in the middle with a 3 out of 5 with a question mark. Dynamic damage boost. I don't know why, but the name of this passive is kind of funny for me. I don't know, dynamic damage sounds cool. Anyway, the character deals 1% more damage for each ability used within the last 10 seconds, up to a maximum of 5%. How good or bad this passive is gonna be is definitely dependent on the class, right? If you have really fast abilities with low cooldowns and you can have a really good rotation, it's gonna be really good. But I don't think it's gonna be that good for PvP because you need the damage fast, right? You waste your first, your second ability, it will be with 1 and 2%, so not that much. But if you have a character that has damage over time and has more spells and the battle takes longer, then it will be really good. Nevertheless, for PvE, it's gonna be good, I think, because let's say you're in a dungeon, right? You kill some mobs, you use your abilities, then you move to the other mobs, and you will have a sustain and a good rotation using your abilities, so you will definitely have the 5% most of the time. Rampage Rush. After entering combat, the player gains 5% damage for 10 seconds. Okay, so this is the easy peasy lemon squeezy. Like you just enter the combat, you have 5% damage for 10 seconds, which I think it will be really good for PvP and for classes like Assassin, someone that just want damage and want it fast, right? You will get the full 5% from the start. So I think it's going to be really good for PvP for many classes, but I don't think it's going to be really good for PvE. And the reason is that, let's say you're in a boss, right? You will have the buff for the first 10 seconds and after that, nothing. Or you are in fighting with challenging mobs that takes more than 10 seconds. So in PvE, I think it's going to be really bad because of that, but it's going to be really good in PvP. Moving to tier 2 of the warrior, let's see the first choice, multi-strike mastery. When dealing damage with an ability to more than one target, damage is increased by 2% for each additional target hit. Stacks up to 5 times, lasts for 10 seconds. Now I don't really like the passives that needs stacks and it takes time to get there. I mean, yeah, sure, it's 10%, but if you think a 2v2, a 1v1 scenario in a PvP situation, it will be really bad. Now, in a ZVZ situation, when there are more people, it will be really good. But we don't have any info about ZVZ, so we'll just keep it there. In a PvE environment, kind of the same. Let's say you have like 3 targets, right? And it's not like damage, it's ability. You have to use an ability to take the stacks. So you have a camp with, let's say, 3 mobs, right? You do one ability, you take 2 stacks, 4%. Then you use another ability, another 4%. Like, it takes time. What I would do, I would change the 2% to 3%. And I will change the 5 stacks into 3 stacks. Which means if you hit a camp with 3 mobs, you get 6% instant, right? And then with another ability, you get another 6%. So you go to the 9% really fast, right? But this way it will take longer, and I don't think it's gonna be that good. Healthy aggression. The player deals 8% more damage when their health is above 90%. Now, this is better than it seems. You're gonna say, like, okay, 90%, like I get like one hit and I'm already 80% or something. Yeah, but you have to think about it. If you're an assassin and you're invis or something and you want your burst damage, right? You will be 100% either way. If you're a ranged DPS and you're out of danger, you're gonna be full health. So definitely in a PvE scenario for ranged DPS, this will be really, really good. But even for a PvP scenario, maybe not that good, but still, if you play in a team and you're a ranged DPS and you're somewhere in the back, you will be quite healthy, so it's gonna be okay. There is a bonus also for characters that play with shields. We saw that there are mana shields, so some damage will go to the shield and your health will be okay, so we'll get the bonus there also. I believe that characters who play with shield will be really, really benefit by this. Adrenaline Rush. After killing an enemy, the character deals 8% more damage for 10 seconds. So in order to get the buff, in a PvP scenario, you have to kill the guy and then take the buff. Okay, really bad in a 1v1 situation, but maybe you have 2 or 3 targets, you kill someone and then you take the buff, but in general, I don't like it. And in a PvE scenario, what, you have to kill the boss to get the buff? Okay, maybe there's a camp with 3 or 4 mobs and you kill the one mob, you take the buff after, so that kind of saves it a little bit, but still not a big fan. Tier 2 wasn't that exciting, but Tier 3 is really good. Executioner's Edge. The character deals 10% more damage to targets with health below 20%. One of the most solid talents so far, because it will work in any situation. You're on PvP, your opponent will be at 20% at some point. You fight a boss, the same, it will be 20%. Like mobs, 3-4 mobs, they will be 20%. So the requirement is guaranteed in every scenario. So that makes Executioner's Edge one of the most solid, and I think one of the most balanced talents also, because it's really good, but it's not overpowered, it's not broken, you know, so it hits the sweet spot of a really good talent. Resilient Fury. If the character takes damage exceeding 30% of their maximum health within 3 seconds, they deal 10% more damage. The effect lasts for 10 seconds. Looks really good for PvP, especially for melee DPS that will be up there in the front and they will take damage. It seems realistic to lose 30% of your maximum health in 3 seconds in a PvP situation. So I think it will be really good there. Now, in a PvE scenario, bro, if you're gonna lose 30% of your life in 3 seconds, something goes wrong in a PvE scenario. I can understand this if it happens in a boss, you know, like it might have an ability that you lose a lot of health, okay, but it shouldn't be the default. You shouldn't lose 30% of your life in 3 seconds. So I think it will be really bad in PvE, but for some classes it will be good for PvP, not for ranged DPS and stuff like that, but for people that are in your face and doing constant damage and losing life also, it's gonna be good. Anti-heal. Damage dealing abilities reduce the effectiveness of healing by 40% for 3 seconds. People that know me probably are laughing right now because I really like anti-heal. I think it's really strong for PvP, and especially in this game that has a lot of heal, right? Some reference Hood of Tenacity, Staff of Balance, Carrion Color in Albion. So I think it's going to be really strong for PvP, but for PvE I think it's going to be really bad because the mobs don't heal, right? Like there's no healing in mobs unless there is some kind of boss, maybe like Avalonian Dungeon, the last boss in Albion we used anti-heal, but in general really bad for PvE but really good for PvP. Fighting Spirit. Every 2.5 seconds the character spends in combat, they gain 1% attack power or spell power adaptive, max 10%. Not so good, not so bad. I mean, if you think about it, if you want to reach the max 10%, it's 25 seconds. 25 seconds is a lot, especially for PvP. I will probably do it 2 seconds, so it will be a little faster. But for PvE, I think it will be really strong. I think when you're playing a boss, it will definitely take some time to take the boss out, so it will have value, plus challenging mobs, plus maybe sometimes you go from camp to camp really fast, so you will stay in combat. So I think in PvE it will be good. In PvP, not so much. Life Force Augmentation. You can tell by the title that this is gonna be a really good one. The character gains additional attack power or spell power adaptive equal to 1.5% of the maximum health or mana adaptive. Okay, I was very excited when I saw this because it has a lot of potential. If you think about it, many people will go for full health, so 1.5 will be a lot, and many people will go for full mana also, because we saw that there are ways to redirect the damage to your mana pool, have mana shields, and also increase your spell power for more damage. It will be really good in PvP, PvE. It's always active. You don't have any crazy pre-requirement. I think it's very solid and really good talent. Probably one of the best in the game. Kill Strike Empowerment. For each enemy killed, the character gains 0.1%, max 10%, attack power or spell power adaptive. All stacks are lost upon death. I have a lot of things to say about this because the way this passive is right now, I really don't like it, okay? PvP wise, okay, you will have it in the beginning, you will make damage, but let's say you play in an arena 3v3, let's say you play in a battleground 12v12, or even in open world and you kill someone, he kills you, you come back and stuff like that, you lose everything. Like, you're useless after your first death. In PvE, okay, you can maybe stay alive, but then again, what happens if something goes wrong? You need to kill 100 mobs. Like, you need 100 mobs to reach the 10%. Now, I have two suggestions. I like the second one better. The first one is to change the 0.1 and make it 0.2. If you make it 0.2, it will need 50 mobs to reach 10%, which is kind of okay. But the second option I think is much better, and I believe that the all stacks are lost upon death is wrong. It will be better if it's like 50% of your stacks are lost upon death. What will happen then? Let's say you have 10%, right? And you die. You go to 5%. Let's say you die again. You go to 2.5%, and then you can stack up again. So if you're in a battleground, if you die many times, okay, you lose everything. But at least if you die 1 or 2 times, it's kind of okay. And if you're in the open world PvE or something, you die 1 time because something bad happened, you go to 5%. And then you can start stacking up again. So it will be less punishing, though I like the idea that the death penalty, you know, like try not to die, stay alive. Like, it brings an excitement and you don't want to die. But losing all stacks, I think it's a bit too punishable to have to farm 100 mobs again. Charge Catalyst. For each ability used by the character, allies or enemies within the radius of 10 meters, the character gains charges for 5 seconds. At 10 charges, the next ability will deal 20% more damage. Definitely this passive is not good for solo players because you're losing the extra charges you will get from your allies. But if you're in a party, in a PvP scenario, in a 3 versus 3, 4 versus 4, I think that you will get your charges pretty fast. Though I will make it 8 charges and not 10. I think 10 is a bit too much, but okay, we'll see how it goes. Now, for the PvE, are the abilities that mobs are casting considered like charges, like you will get charges from the mobs or not? Because the mobs are casting some abilities, you know, like they're doing some stuns, some stuff like that. So we have to see that also. Overall, quite balanced, nothing crazy. I just think that it would be better with 8 charges. True Strike. Every third basic attack deals an additional 3% of target's current health as true damage. This is what we call a tank killer, okay? I don't really like these skills because I usually play tank, and the more health you have, the more armor you have and stuff like that, the most value these abilities have. Excellent, especially for characters that have very increased attack speed, right? So if you auto attack and you auto attack fast, this is like perfect. It's just that it's kind of sad for us tanks when we see someone with true damage like that. The only reason it's not 5 out of 5, it's because it's not for everyone, right? Like, if you're a mage and you cast spells and stuff like that, the attack speed doesn't, you know, and the true damage doesn't really matter. Nevertheless, extremely good ability both for PvE, for PvP, for everything. Really good. Bloodthirst. The character gains an additional 5% attack power or spell power adaptive for every 15% of missing health. Extremely strong in PvP. Bloodthirst is, I don't know, insane for me. Like if you imagine two characters, same level, same items, everything the same. The one guy has bloodthirst, the other doesn't. The guy with the bloodthirst will win for fun. Very strong comeback mechanic because the lower your life, the more the attack power you get. Like if you're almost ready to die and you're like 10% and it's your last stand, you throw an ability, it's 30% more attack power or spell power depending on your character, which is really good. Now PvE wise, not that good. I mean, okay, it's not bad, it's not terrible, but it's so-so. Over very strong for PvP players, especially if you're a melee DPS and you will get damage. I mean, okay, if you're a ranged DPS and you're somewhere in the back, maybe not that good. Okay, fine, I get it. But for people that fight and are in front and are losing life, oh my god, it's really good. That was the Warriors talent tree. A lot of info, a lot of abilities. This video took like way more hours than I expected, but it's a start, it's a beginning. I know things are gonna change. I know there are gonna be patches, there are gonna be this and that, but what's important now, like you can comment on what I'm saying, because it's not that everything that I say is like rock solid 100% correct. Like, you know, maybe I do a mistake, maybe I didn't read something properly, and if you write in the comments your opinion for an ability, let's say you think that something is too strong or something is too weak or something needs a buff, you know, from the way you see it, the company Artificial Call also will see it, you know, and they will take notes. And this feedback, I think it's really important, even if we're in alpha, even if a lot of things will change. I think this information is really valuable and will help the game become better. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.